Things will also be shared. Thank you, Roshan. And recordings will be shared at the end of our facilitation week. Okay, so before we begin, there are a couple of house rules. As usual, this is a collaborative and dialogic space, so meant for exchange of thoughts, questions, ideas, and best practices. We trust that you have personal experiences, be it small or big, in the areas of discussion. So we encourage each one to contribute openly and respectfully. And with that said, let's all have a good time. So Roshan, let's please stand by for group photo. So very quickly, I would like to invite all of you to put on your best smiles for a group photo.
Okay, so let's see everyone turn on cameras. For those who can't, don't worry. Okay, so everyone ready? Best smiles. 1, 2. Okay, good. Okay, let's take another one. Let's take another one very quickly.
Okay.
Let's take another. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you for all the smiley faces. So, our facilitator this evening is Nandini Das Koshal, and Executive Director at ION Consulting International. She believes that all facilitators have immense power in influencing group energy and outcomes. So in today's session, Nandini will enlighten us on ways for better and more effective facilitation by using learnings from applied neuroscience, looking into the brain science of effective facilitation, the applied neuroscience-based checklist for facilitator and workshop design. She will also share some neuro tips to further power up your facilitation game. So without further delay, let's get your game on, and please welcome Nandini.
Hello, thank you so much. And thank you very much for the energizing start. I'm just immediately transported to ICCKL 4 months back. And the good feeling and the good vibes that, I brought back with me to Singapore are just getting evoked in my memory again. So very, very excited to be with you again and bringing the message of neuroscience for all those who are interested. So I welcome you all, and I have quite a lot of things to take you through. And we have, unfortunately, only 1.5 hours. And also, I don't want to bore you with sciencey terms. So we have tried to make it interactive. But before I go on, a few things. So one is that I will be using some neuroscience terms, but if you want more clarification on them, and I don't go into the details, again, because of the time constraint, then do make a note. I'm very happy to stay after this 1.5 hour slot and clarify any doubts that you have. It's inadvertent that those terms be used, otherwise we are not really understanding the science. So that is one request. The other request is that all of you probably have had some reading, some interaction, some knowledge of brain sciences from this or that source, because nowadays people are very interested in the subject. So it will be nice if you make references to those, in the interactions you have amongst yourselves and also towards the end. Okay, so this is actually a space for learning together. Yeah. Thirdly, I just want to say that ION Consulting has been operational for the last 4 years. we are started based on the works of Dr. Paul Brown, who was a professor of applied neuroscience in Monarch Business School. And he also comes with a background of 30 years of clinical psychology. But he saw that there was the message of applied neuroscience needed to be spread into the world when about 13 years ago, he started doing neuroscience sessions for coaches, leaders, and therapists. Okay, so a lot of our work is based on his research, but we are also a group of very, very curious coaches who have interest in research. So we are bringing you also knowledge from the best research which is being done in the Western universities on applied neuroscience. So this, whatever I talk to you is from the latest research that we have. Okay, that's number 2. Third is that neuroscientists typically tend to be very interested in the brain and the disorders of the brain. Yeah. So if you speak to a neuroscientist, they'll be interested in things like Alzheimer's or schizophrenia or dementia, or even things like tumors, etc. So they're not really interested in the behavior part of it. But people like us are actually the ones who pull out the science and then look at the behavior implications of neuroscience. So that's what we're going to present. The other thing is that psychology undergrad and master courses across the world in all universities have got updated with neuroscience modules, because that is proof of certain mechanisms in our brain that are working in order to manifest certain behaviors. Yeah. So I'm telling you all this because these are common questions that even I get all the time, that, what does this applied neuroscience even mean? So applied neuroscience is in that zone of explaining behavior and using that understanding to influence other people. So here you are, facilitators, you influence change. Yeah, you influence behavior. So today we're going to talk about what is the neuroscience of it. What is this thing that you are actually doing? And the point is that you are probably doing it because of your training and experience, and also you have seen success doing certain things. But today we will go into the science of it. What is really happening in our brain and in the brains of the people who are in a facilitated session. Okay, if I had my way, I would do the whole thing as a facilitated class where I'm not doing so much of the talking but more the experience. But unfortunately we don't have the time, so I'm not going to be able to do that. That's why you'll have to put up with about 45 minutes of talk time. But the session is in 3 parts. The first part, I will just tell you what it is going to be. The second part is the talk. And the third part is a joint reflection where I'll request all of you to get into breakout rooms and talk about what can really power up your facilitation from whatever you've heard and experienced. Yeah. So these are the 3 parts of today's session. So let's get into the first part immediately. Okay. Let me just share my presentation. Okay. Sorry, I don't see. So whatever you do, there will always be a tech glitch. So, okay. So are we ready?
Yes, we
sorry.
are.
Okay. So, this is a quick slide to show you that we have a book coming up very soon where 13 facilitators and coaches have written from their experience of applying applied neuroscience into their work. It's called Brains Inspiring Businesses. And if you follow my posts on LinkedIn, you will be able to access this book very soon. It's going to be launched by the first week of November. And I'm sure you will get more tips and, more ideas on how to, look at applied neuroscience and how to build your practice further. I'm just sharing this in public interest. Okay, so now for the game. So the first thing is that we are going to start with a game. Yes, we're going to start with a game. And I would like you to quickly go and grab yourself a pencil or pen and paper. So does everybody have a pencil or pen or paper? Yeah. Let's give everybody a few minutes for that. Okay, if you have got yourself a pencil or pen and paper, then kindly just put the thumbs up. Yeah, so that we know that everybody has it. Isabel, could you confirm to me if everyone's thumbs up sign has come in?
Sorry, everyone, could you please put your thumbs up once more?
Okay.
Okay.
Should we move ahead?
Yes.
Okay, I think there's some new
So-
people who are coming in. They need to be told to get pencil and paper. And one more instruction, Isabel, if there's anybody who comes in after we start the game, kindly do not bring them into the session till the game is over. Yeah, because it
Okay.
will disrupt
Yeah.
everybody's thinking.
Nandini, I think there's a hand raised.
Yes,
By
Nirvair, yes.
No, it
Okay.
is by mistake, and I can't seem to
Oh,
get it down.
Okay.
Sorry.
okay, got it. No.
Probably the host can lower my hand.
Yes, done.
Okay, should we move ahead?
Yes, we shall.
Okay, now what I need you to do is face your back to the camera. Face your back to the camera or face away from the camera of your laptops, because when I give you the instructions, it should appear as if you can get the voice from the back. So there should be no screen in your visual field. You can look at the wall, you can look at something else, but do not look at the screen, so that only my voice is guiding you. And all this while, my request is to keep your camera on, so that, in the spirit of sort of sharing and being together in this experience. Okay, looks like Roshan's not playing. Isabel, can I count on you to tell me everyone is ready? Okay, now just pay attention to my voice. We are going to play a memory game. Okay, and the objective of the game is to see how well you can remember in a short span of time. Okay, so we will play it in 3 stages. Okay, so the first stage is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to call out a list of words. You have to listen carefully to the list of words, and then when I say start, I will give you 20 seconds to write down whatever you remember. Okay, is that clear? It's very simple. I will just read out some words, and then in 20 seconds, you will write whatever you remember. Okay, so can we go now? Start. I'm starting. So listen carefully to the words. Pig, tan, ball, door, pond, memory, science, adulation, expression, espresso, network, Wikipedia, music, leadership, accountant, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, absorbing, love, Barack Obama, patient, politics, beautiful, orphan, love, newspaper, aspiration, Asian, Gucci, thank you, random. Okay, your time starts now. When I say stop, you'll have to stop. Stop. Okay, don't worry, don't worry. There is stuff coming now. All right. So this was part 1. Now you can face the screen. I'm going to read out the list again, but this time a few words will change. Okay. What you have to do is, in your mind, create associations with the words that I'm reading, and then we will do a memory recall again. Okay. So time starts now. I'm reading the words again. Pig, tank, ball, door, pond, memory, science, network, Barack Obama, love, aspiration, Asian, orphan, Singapore, Wikipedia, music, adulation, Gucci, beautiful, Kuala Lumpur, thank you, random, sorry, politics, newspaper, absorbing, patient, stone, leadership, accountant, expression, espresso. Okay, time starts now. You can add to your list. Stop. Okay, now we are going to play the third round. I'm going to flash the words in front of your eyes, and then again you will add to your list, again for 20 seconds. Okay. Stop. All right. All right. I can see someone laughing. That's Jean. Lovely. That I'm really curious to hear your reaction. So how was this for you? Did you find it challenging? Did you find it easy? Did you any responses?
Yeah, I'm laughing because it doesn't make any difference. I fail in all 3. My list is like still less than 10 after the 3rd round. Yeah, it's really, really bad. So yeah, that's why I'm laughing.
Thank you for sharing, Jean. Anybody else?
I must say it was quite challenging because the brain is just trying to grasp at the different words. And at every segment, we're just trying to squeeze as much into our brains to remember. But because it's also random, and that's why it's hard. Unrelated randomness.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. What helped you to remember the words by the time we reached the 3rd round? by the time we reached the third round, did anything help you to remember the words? Any responses?
I think for me, oh, sorry, Shanti, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rupa. Yeah.
For me, I think seeing the words didn't help because auditory, I'm not sure if I'm hearing everything correctly, but seeing it, especially some of the 3-syllable words or words that were more on not a physical thing to associate with, it helped. But yeah, just like G, my list is under 10, so I'm, not to say big success over here. Yeah. Shanti?
I knew there was some connection because with the cities and politics and Obama, but too fast. So by the time trying to put the connection and have a way of remembering, it was all gone. But there was some words that connects. I saw the connection, but it's just too fast. Can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah,
Captain, sorry. Who was
Daniel here.
Daniel?
So
Yes.
for me, listening was a lot better than what viewing the PowerPoint. I saw pink network memory, I think, and then the PowerPoint disappeared. I was like, wait, that was way too fast. But I guess I have a bit more on the words from listening than viewing the slide. Yeah, that's just for me.
Okay, one last response I'll take and then move on.
Yeah, from me, it's trying to make the connection in between the words. For example, the espresso expressions, it's trying to make following the alphabetical model. I'm trying to group them together, but it's just way too fast of that change. The brain cannot take care of so much. I mean, that big capacity of the connection.
Wonderful, wonderful. But how are you feeling? Are you feeling alert or energized after this game, or are you feeling like you have switched off? Like, be honest, it's all right. There's no judgment here. We are just learning together. How is your emotional state now versus at the beginning of coming into the workshop?
Things will probably get easier as compared to earlier on the first time. Things will get easier. I hope to see that slide one more time. Not enough. Just get a little bit more. Just a little bit more. I'm going to be better.
Yeah, actually, if I were you, I would feel quite unnerved if you ask me, like what is this? I would actually be feeling unnerved. So if you're feeling like that, it's all right. The whole idea was to bring an experience. Okay. Now, the thing is that I will take this exercise up towards the end of my presentation. So please hold on to the experience. I will be making references to it as I talk through my slides. Yeah. Okay. Now we go on to the the hard material about the software. Okay. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So all of you are facilitators. Anybody wants to give me a definition of what is facilitation? Anything, and an experiential definition, not a bookish definition. Anybody?
Nandini, Shan here.
Yes, Shan. Yes, Captain, I'm really looking forward to hearing your voice.
My definition is aligning a group or team to make effective decision.
Wonderful. Thank you. And you've been doing it for years and years, right? Okay. So in the interest of time, I will go fast. The act of helping other people to deal with a process or reach an agreement or solution. I got this definition from the Cambridge dictionary. But the next one is the one I like more as a definition: enabling powerful change. Enabling powerful change. So good facilitation can change the way people think and act, and ultimately support them to positively change the world around them. I have every reason to believe that the group of people I'm speaking with here today actually are change makers. They are facilitators and they are change makers, and they align to the second definition. So what are the things about facilitation from a brain point of view? What are the factors that are there in facilitation? Yeah, it is about people. It is something social because it involves more than one person. It is about connections. It is about a emerging combined view. Yeah, because we create interactions with people, there is an emerging combined view. There could be a change in the view because of the interactions. It is about stimulus. So we bring stimulus into facilitation through tools, through games, through reflection questions to create that atmosphere and environment for change. It is also about the space that we are in. So right now we are in a virtual space, but when we do live facilitation, the space matters a lot. The seating arrangement, how are the participants engaging with the facilitator, the quality of sound, all of that matters. And I know that as designers, you look into all of these aspects when you're designing. It's about tools, what tools we bring in. It's about a shared view. Yeah, as facilitators, the minute I know someone is a facilitator, I know exactly, what kind of thinking they could probably be having. And it is about the brains in the room. So right now, there are 21 participants here, and all of our brains are actually engaging together to basically unpeel something. And it's about the brains aligning in the room, right? So through various methods, we will align, and you design to make the brains align. As a facilitator, as a designer, you make you design the experience, right? The brains respond to other brains. So there is a word called neural coupling, which essentially means that if I and Isabel have a meaningful conversation, and if we resonate together, there's something called neural coupling, which happens. So we design for making brains in the room resonate and respond to each other, right? And we design for brain alignment. I took so many points for a reason, because from looking at our work, and I count myself as a facilitator. So from looking at our work just as something mechanical or transactional, I want us to look at our work in a way that it is elevated to a place where we are change makers and where we are aligning our brains to the brains of the people in the room, and their brains are aligning with each other and responding to each other. Now, in the next couple of slides, I will take you through the science of it. Yeah, so what is really going on? And my request to Isabel is that it's 8:34 here. At about 9:15, just give me a ping, because I do want the interaction to happen between people, so that I don't lose track of time.
Hi, Nandini. Hi, Nandini. Tiru here.
Yeah, hi.
Just the process question. Are you taking questions now, or do you take at the end of the session? Because I have a question on this slide. Just.
Yeah. No, I think since you
might be easier.
me, there must be a pressing query in your mind. So
just thanks. Just a simple question. Given all these factors, where do designers normally fail to? Which one of these bullet points do they don't take much interest on, or rather fall short on? Of all these, if any of these bullet points, in your experience?
I don't have data on that, but hopefully, by the end of this session, you will for yourself see that where you can power up your design inputs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So I will be talking through the tips, and I will ask you this question again at the end of the session. How does that sound? Yeah.
Thank you. No worries.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but you should get your answer. All right. Okay, before I go on to the scary diagrams, I have 6 neuro-tips for this class today. 6, okay? The first 5 tips are in the zone of design, okay? Of emotions, the design of emotions and the emotional exchange between the brain. The last and very important one is about the cognitive difference that brains are making. So one is in a little bit in the zone of emotions, meaning feel good. How do we resonate together? How do we align together in that zone? And the last one is more in the zone of the cognitive inputs, because I know sometimes as facilitators, we also have to facilitate. Sometimes it could be a case study. Sometimes it is just cognitive knowledge, like we have to bring to the room. So the last one is more in that zone. Okay. Again, these are clarifications. When we finish, hopefully it will be clear. Okay. So now shift attention. We are going to go into the first insight or the first neuro tip. Okay. Again, requesting you, if you find any term too sciencey, just make a note. We will discuss it at the end. Okay. All right. So here we have a rather sciencey looking slide. And any ideas on what it is? Just any one random response will do. I think some people are putting comments in the chat, but I am not being able to see the chat. So you can just put a comment in the chat if you don't want to speak. That's also fine. So essentially what I'm showing you is the workings of the neural system. Yeah. I don't have the picture of the whole brain, but if you look at figure A, that is the basic neural structure of our body. It is a neuron. Okay. And if you see the arrow that is going through, it is basically the electrical signal that goes through our brain. So our brain is massively electrochemical. At the beginning of the neuron, you can see the structure. It is called a soma, this circle, and these are all dendrites around it. And this line here is called the axon. The axon is it is covered with a protein sheath called myelin, and at the end of it are terminal dendrites. Now, this is the basic structure in all of our brains, and there are 86 billion neurons in our brains, which are wired in very intricate ways. Okay. The other figure that you might be interested in is actually something called the electrical action potential. Again, I've got these just to show you that our brains are actually electrical organs. And there is this gray matter, white matter, which all of us have. In case you want to know, gray matters is the neuron, and the white matter is usually the protein that surrounds the neuron. And you can also see that the brain has different kinds of waves that come out and can be recorded by EEG and MRI, fMRI instruments. Now, all of this together should give you an idea that essentially our brain is all the time stimulated, and at all times it is receiving some stimulus or the other, and it is always working. So our brain is always working. When we sleep, even then, there are waves coming out of our brains. The electrical activity is on. So the brain is the only organ that is all the time active. From the time we are born to the time we die, even when we are sleeping, the brain is active. Okay. But what is this activity? What is going on? Our brain actually is constantly active in terms of getting influenced by stimulus around us, and that stimulus produces response in the brain. So if you look at this diagram, you can see that, at the center of it is the brain, but all the senses, the hearing, taste, smell, vision, touch, all of that is constantly giving inputs into your brain. So right now, as you're listening to me, your auditory cortex is active. It is taking in my voice and trying to make meaning of what exactly I'm saying. The screen is also acting and giving you, acting as stimulus and giving you some inputs. Okay. Now, here's the thing that is very important to note. All of this stimulus first gets filtered through the emotional system. And then it goes into the logical system of the brain. Again, it will take one full class to actually take you through all the parts of the brain and what is their function. I did not have time for that. But what I want to establish is that the importance of stimulus in a facilitated class. If I am facilitating a group of brains, I have to remember that every single thing in that space is a stimulus to that brain. And if we use all the 5 senses, we are creating a very rich canvas for interaction. This is the biggest takeaway for facilitators. Okay. And why I'm saying this is that, and going back to your question earlier, where do facilitators fall short? I think it's not where they fall short, but they can actually leverage the 5 senses better when they are designing for workshops. Typically, we do not have a checklist of the 5 senses when we are designing for workshops. So use of props, use of stimulus in the room, use of color, use of even touch and sound through music, and I would say even smell, using pleasant fragrances, all of this has a very big role to play. The other thing is that suppose one of these things is off, it has an immediate impact on the participants in a room. So for example, if we are doing a workshop in a hotel room where there's a smell of stale carpets, it has happened to me many times, immediately it puts off the participants in the room. So as facilitators, where we can dial up is we can dial up the sensorial inputs for the participants. So this is point number 1, or neuro tip number 1, the importance of stimulus. The job of a facilitator is to bring the right stimulus to the group. Now here, I just want to take 2 minutes and address one more thing. You can put lots of stimulus in the room, but the facilitator's job is to create attention for a particular stimulus. So what does that mean? That means that, for example, right now, all of you may have different items in your respective spaces, but your attention is possibly focused on what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So because of that, you are not noticing all the other things in the room. But an expert facilitator takes care of both the attention as well as the inputs or the stimulus in the peripheral vision of the participant. Okay. Now I'm saying this very easily, but I also know it takes a lot of thinking and a lot of attention to detail to make this happen. Okay. But if we can make it happen, then it can really power up your workshops. For example, from my experience, I have seen that when I do workshops during the day and when I use, sun-filled spaces with sunlight, that has a very positive effect. Again, it depends on the kind of workshop. Sometimes when you're doing strategy workshops, which have a lot of cognitive action, it helps to have a spotlight in the room because it focuses the attention of everybody into one problem. Yeah. So again, you have to think through the stimulus. What is the purpose of the workshop and what kinds of stimulus you can use. So this is point number 1. Okay, so we go on to point number 2. This is just a visual to show you that the brain of the facilitator is actually trying to align the brains of all the different people in the room who could be thinking in all kinds of different directions, right? So the challenge for the facilitator is really that much more. Yeah. Okay, before I move to the next point, any comments? Anybody wants to ask any question or say something? Okay, I'll move on because again, we don't have that much time. The second neuro tip. The second neuro tip is quite interesting. I think you do this all the time, but today I really want to take some time to explain the science behind it. What do you see in this picture? Any quick responses? Okay, there are a lot of monkeys. Okay, and what are the monkeys doing? Yes, Daniel, I saw you unmute.
Yeah, the monkeys are having a gathering, I suppose.
Okay.
And Rupa
So
says grooming. Sorry,
grooming,
Rupa's
wonderful. Yes,
grooming.
they are grooming. They are grooming each other. They are actually picking up nits from each other. And if you have ever been to the zoo, what you will see that this is how they behave socially. When they are having a social interaction, you will see groups of monkeys. They are all taking out nits from the fur. This is something I think all of us would have seen, right? Okay, so there is an anthropologist called Robin Dunbar who is now the head of environmental science in Oxford University, and he has basically come up with this theory, which is rooted in a lot of research, which basically says that one of the main reasons that keeps monkeys together is this action of picking up nits from their bodies. Okay, this grooming each other. And why? Because it releases something called endorphins in the body. Okay, endorphins in the body are nothing but pain relievers. Okay, they reduce the perception of pain. Now, why is this important? It's important because we human beings are also primates, just like monkeys. We are advanced version of primates, but a lot of neuroscience learnings actually come by studying primates. Okay, we are also primates, and this release of endorphins is important for us as well to bond as groups. Okay, is that clear? So you can ask now, what does that have to do with us humans? Okay, it has a lot to do with us humans because we humans don't nitpick each other's, lies, right? To bonding. What do we do for bonding, for social bonding? We have conversations, right? So we have conversations, and conversations are the primary way of keeping groups cohesive. Okay, so social bonding releases, or conversations release endorphins in the body. And endorphins are endogenously occurring neuromodulators, which basically impact pain perception and improve mood, respiration, and release of pituitary hormone. So unfortunately, right now, I am the one talking. But if you were to have a conversation with each other and exchanged, your views and news of today, and, found out about each other's families, immediately there will be a release of endorphins in your body. Okay. And what Robin Dunbar goes on to further state, and a lot of anthropologists also say, is that the size of the neocortex of the brain, which means the size of our rational thinking part of the brain, which has got to do with cognition, language, spatial reasoning, that has grown over millennials because of social bonding. Because of social bonding, the size of the neocortex is amongst all mammals the highest in human beings, and the number of folds in the neocortex is probably highest because of this reason. That's the way our brain is shaped. Therefore, conversation, and conversation that is meaningful and non-threatening, is very, very good for human beings to exist as groups. Now, you will ask, what is the neuro-tip in this? The neuro-tip number 2 is that it is important to create social bonding in groups in order for the endorphin levels to go up. Okay. And it is also found that dance, music, rhythm, rituals, storytelling, these are all methods of increasing endorphins in group situations. So I remember so many sessions I've had, one with EMCC, and I remember, Shan's conference as well, the ICCKL. We did use music, we did use rhythm. And there's more data later on to say that the more we do that, we are able to create a sense of social bonding and the release of endorphins. Why did it feel so good for people who left the workshop later on? And the memorability was also very high. So one of the ways to power up is to create those conversations and to create that joint movement. So any kind of movement together is important to create social bonding. Now you may think that, oh, I have been doing this all my life as a facilitator. What's new? Yes, there is probably not anything new in that sense, but the number of ideas actually go up. So for example, if you've not been using rhythm, if you've not been using music, maybe you want to use that. If you've not been using movement, then you want to use that. Yeah. So this is because we are looking at a complete checklist here. Yeah. Okay. Now the third neurotip. The third neurotip is remove all perception of stress and anxiety. And why is that? Because the emotional brain immediately detects anything threatening in a room. It doesn't even have to go to the neocortex, or it doesn't even have to go to the logical part of the brain. As soon as we enter a space, we can immediately sense stress or anxiety. And also, even if there are people in the room who are high stressed or highly anxious, it will affect the mood of everybody else. So what can, and here, I would love to hear from you, like, what can we do as facilitators to make people feel welcome, to reduce their stress and anxiety? This exercise that Daniel did with us just before we started of mindfulness really does the job of doing it, but there are other ways also perhaps to do that. Okay, make people feel welcome. Okay, this is another tip. Stress has a inverse relationship with participation. But what kind of stress? So this is derived from a very famous Yerkes-Dodson law, which basically says that the performance levels actually increase when there is a small manageable amount of stress. But as the stress becomes higher and higher, and if the people perceive that this is a very complex task which I cannot do, then the level of stress actually spills over and makes it distress. Okay, so some of you may have felt distress. I'm sorry, at the beginning of the workshop when you were trying to remember the words, and some of you may have felt that this is so difficult. How can I remember so many words? But that was not the idea. The idea is to just use that experience as a reference. However, it's also possible that you may have felt energized by that challenge. So small manageable challenges actually increase performance, but if it goes out of control, it reduces performance. So as facilitators, how can we use this insight? We can design non-threatening games for the participants such that they are always engaged and they are in this light green area of performance and not the red area of performance. So this is another tip, in introducing manageable competitiveness to create this thing called eustress. So when you have eustress, essentially what happens is your attention becomes narrow and your focus increases, and you actually prep your entire body to perform, which also increases alertness in the body. So therefore it's also important to create a little bit of that while you reduce the perception of any anxiety or stress in the room. So both are important. All right. This is again something which could be something that facilitators don't use enough. Okay, the activation of human empathy in the room. Okay, and I have this from very experienced leaders as well, because I've discussed this problem with some of my friends who are leaders. They do not necessarily activate human empathy for learning in a workshop. They do not, because they like to stick to the just the task oriented stuff. But data shows us that activation of human empathy actually increases learning in any situation. So we have this thing called the mirror neuron system. Okay, and I've talked about this earlier also, that suppose now I start clapping. Mentally, some of you may actually feel like clapping yourselves. Yeah. So if I just clap, mentally, some of you might actually feel like clapping, and you might actually feel like following the rhythm of the claps. Okay. This is a very natural tendency all of us human beings have. Point is that when we organize a facilitation or a workshop, these energies already exist in the room. Question is, are we activating it enough as facilitators? Okay. The other thing is that all of us have this thing called mentalizing capability, which means that I can actually visualize what you might be thinking. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's just that that ability exists in all of us human beings. So when people say, for example, psychology, I say psychology is a subject that each one of us knows, because we are all born psychologists. We all have mirror neurons, and we all think we know what the other guy is thinking. Okay, and we all think that we know why the other guy is thinking the way he's thinking. Okay, so we are all psychologists, and this ability to walk in somebody's shoes is called mentalizing. Okay, now what I am trying to say here is that this is a very important power that exists in any room where the facilitation is going on. The question to the facilitator is, or the designer of the program is, are you activating this? Are you activating this enough? Yeah, which means, are you creating non-judgmental interactions between people that promote conversation and connection? And I know this, that In coach training, for example, this is activated all the time. In coach training, this is activated all the time. In fact, this is the only thing that leaders need to understand, that are they activating this in their teams enough? Yeah, because the power already exists. There's really very little we have to do except give the space and the stimulus to do this. Okay. And the activation of the human empathy system can lead to long and short-term pro-social action. And as you know, today people are talking about organizations and team bonding and belonging and all of these, diversity, inclusion, belonging, and all these big words. But it's really this. This is all that needs to be activated in organizations. It's not enough that coaches are activating it. Leaders have to activate it in their organizations. Okay. So the net point here is that the emotion, empathy is already present. We need to activate it. Our limbic systems are constantly giving us this message, am I safe here? Am I safe here? And once we feel we are safe in an environment, there is learning that happens. So another thing is that our brains they operate on about 22 watts of energy. And that energy is limited. So if, for example, you are worried or anxious about being in an environment, your body's energy will actually go to resolve your anxiety, and very little energy is then left for attention to what is going on in the room. So what I'm saying is that our energy is limited, and our energy is designed for our energy to first reduce the threat in the environment. Okay, so if that be the case, isn't that the first objective of the facilitator? That first reduce that so that there's enough energy left for creativity and learning. Okay. This is another very slide that I love showing, is that the heart energy is very powerful. And there is a person called Dr. Alan Watkins. And at the end of the presentation, I have all the sources from where the information has been taken. So I'm very happy to share that with the group. You can yourself go and read up the work. So this Dr. Alan Watkins, did an experiment where he measured the magnetic field of the heart versus the brain. He's even written a full book on it called Coherence. And basically, he came up with this thing that the magnetic component of the heart's field is about 5,000 times stronger, and the electrical field is 60 times stronger than the brain, which means that if your heart is resonating with somebody's in the room, you will create an environment called entrainment or resonance, and people will feel that energy even though they don't know what exactly it is called. So everything I'm actually saying here points to the fact that creating that empathy and resonance and social bonding is a very big power up that a facilitator has to design for in their workshops. And to you it may be very obvious, but there are clients of mine. I have gone into environments like banks or financial institutions where the environment is very, very transactional and it's very, very cold. And even the remit to the facilitator, like for example to me, has been, let's just stick to the basics and don't be emotional, and the messaging is very clear. But then when I've broken the barrier, there has been a huge amount of appreciation amongst the participants. So in reality, when we are dealing with clients, it's not always very obvious to the client that the energy of the room can be changed by interaction. So this is the point, and all of neuroscience points towards this. Actually, if you study neuroscience, all of neuroscience points towards being more human at the end of the day. You know, it's all about connection with people and authentic exchanges and compassion. So you will find neuroscientists typically they end up being actually quite spiritual because it just leads them to that path. So neuro tip number 5, create empathy and ease with non-judgmental listening and create more and more opportunities for exchange of non-judgmental speaking and listening amongst the participants, because neuroscience also takes that as a very important thing to do. Okay, so all of this was about the emotional climate. Now I will come to the learning bit. And there are 4 factors again that aid memory and learning. And the key player is an organ called hippocampus in the brain. In fact, there are 2. So hippocampi, they look like apparently like seahorses, and they are embedded in the emotional brain. So recent research shows that all of like learning and memory is deeply linked to the health of the hippocampus in the brain. And there's a very important study by Dr. Wendy Suzuki. She's written a lot of papers on this, and there's a podcast as well on this. Andrew Huberman, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's really very, very popular now because he does these two-hour podcasts going deep into neuroscience. So anybody who thinks that they like all this nerdy information can listen to his podcasts. They are very technical, and he has done a podcast with Dr. Wendy Suzuki and talking about learning and memory. Now, why I'm bringing this up is because very often as facilitators, we also have to create experiences that aid learning and memory in a workshop. So, okay, so here are the 4 factors that create memorability, okay? So the first thing is novelty of the experience. So something that takes you by surprise. The second thing is repetition. So you repeat something, that experience or that knowledge. Recall is different from just reading. And this is very important because nowadays I find a lot of students, and I have 2 children, they read a lot, but they don't spend enough time in recall. And if they don't spend enough time in recall, repetition is not really happening, and therefore their memory is not getting, learning is not happening, and their memory is not getting strengthened. The other thing is association, which I hope you experienced when we did the game in the beginning. And lastly is emotional resonance. So I tried to bring these 4 things into the game today. Novelty is because I did not inform you that what will be the game like, so you may be intrigued. So, and it might have even led to some distress, which happens if you see a completely new thing. You will feel a little distressed till you get used to it. So, but that makes it more memorable. Okay. So novelty, repetition is I took you through the same list of words 3 times. So hopefully by the 3rd time you experience that you were able to remember more. Okay. The 3rd thing is association. So when I read the words the 2nd time, I asked you to associate it with something that is of importance to you. So for example, if I say Barack Obama, what does that mean to you? It means different things to different people actually. Or if I say beautiful, what does it mean to you? It could mean your child. To somebody else, it could mean Miss Universe, you know. So different people have different associations with the words, and those associations will light up in your brain. And then is emotional resonance. We tend to remember those words and those meanings come into our mind with which we have emotional resonance. Now, if in a facilitated classroom, I can activate all these 4 things at the same time for the participants, it will lead to better memorability, learning, and recall. And they will go back remembering perhaps that session more. So it sounds simple. It is simple, but to activate it, one has to really think how you want to design the experience. Okay. Just a very interesting fact here. Again, I'm bringing our superhero back, who is the hippocampus in the brain. The hippocampus actually has a function in forming new memories and creating sensations and emotions, attaching sensations and emotions to those new experiences. So anything that you experience, the hippocampus gives the meaning to that and stores it in the short-term memory. So hippocampus is where the short-term memory is. And it is the working memory of the brain. So the brain can actually decide to either junk that after the experience is over, or if there are enough number of repetitions, and if there is enough emotional resonance, that memory will go into the long-term memory. It has been noticed that childhood memories or memories, when we were young, they tend to go into the long-term memory of the brain, but the recent memories don't go beyond the hippocampus. And I think it is just the design of nature to basically protect the energy of our brain. There's a very interesting story of, London cab drivers. I don't know. I thought I'll just share this story. Basically, what they found was that London cab drivers have to pass the toughest exam in order to get their license. And somebody from the UCL college in neuroscience wanted to actually study what happens to their brains after 4 years of rigorous studying and test giving. And they actually found that the size of the hippocampus increased after they gave the exam. So this was like a way to show that if you put more memories in your hippocampus, actually the size increases as neurogenesis that happens. Again, even if nothing else, you remember, if you remember this word hippocampus, if you remember the word memory, then maybe you can Google and find out a little bit more about these things, because information is really very easily available, good, credible information, and it will really help you to improve your own life. For example, I have also read in Wendy Suzuki's papers that acute exercise means 30 minutes of exercise every single day increases the neurons in the hippocampus. So this is a study that she did. And I have actually started, going to the gym every single day. And I believe it is making a difference in all sorts of ways, to my health. So one of the, I think, benefits of being interested in neuroscience is gives you lots of tips on self-improvement. Yeah. Okay. So this is neuro tip number 6, rules of memorability. I've just given a, sort of acronym here, NAIR, but novelty, association, repetition, and emotional resonance. When we design workshops, can we design with these principles in mind? Yeah. So this is really, the end of my theory session with neuro tips, and deliberately I've ended at 9:14, so that's perfect. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I have spoken enough now. What I would really like is now, maybe if we can break out into groups and have a discussion. What I would like is all of you to just talk about, what you heard, any questions, and also how will you power up your own facilitation based on what you heard? Like, what are the things that you can do better in the emotional zone or in the cognitive zone when it comes to your own facilitation practice? So that's the question. And I would request Roshan to help me with this.
Yes, sure. So we're going to break up into rooms.
Yes, so this will only be 5 minutes. After that, we will come back and do some sharing.
All right. So we have 5 rooms. One room has 3 participants. And I'm going to open up all rooms. Now, you should receive a pop-up message on your screen. Right?
Have you put me in a breakout room as well, Roshan?
Would you like to go in one?
I don't mind going into a
Sure,
breakout room.
sure.
Is this our breakout room?
No, you need to, I think you click the button at the bottom of your toolbar, breakout room, and click join breakout room. Room number 5. I've assigned it to room number 5.
Yeah, I'm looking for that command. I can't find it, Rosh.
You can't find it. Wait, let me try. Okay. I've actually already assigned you. It says that you are in room 5, but you're not clicked join there.
Yeah.
Or
let it be. Let it be.
no, you can, if I think you wait, let me just try again. Let me try again. Okay, let me just put you in room 4 now.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'm gonna send you back to room 5. Now, do you get it? You're on mute.
All right. Welcome back. I hope you had an energizing discussion. So now if we could just hear from each of the groups, their reflections, their thoughts, anything at all, and the question that how will you power up, your practice? So which group wants to go first?
Yeah, I guess my group can go first. And guys, if you don't mind, I wrote some notes down, but you can add to it. And Bhavani had a really nice last minute conversation around COVID. But let me share what my group came up with. Empathy, putting people's mind at ease, which is really the science of behind psychological safety and what we've been speaking about. The neurological experiences that we have with social bonding and social interaction. For me, it was the monkey picture that did it. Gratitude and how we can create the environment in which we can have people be safe to say what they need or want. And where in the brain does all this happen, which is the hippocampus. Hippocampus, yeah, quite close. And Bhavani was also mentioning towards the end how COVID had taught us that the social interactions with the bigger group, no matter how introverted or extroverted we may be, is so crucial to our mental health and well-being.
Yes, and I hope you know now why. Why? Because the size of our logical brain actually grows by talking more to more different kinds of people.
Yeah. And the 30 minutes of exercise, which increases the number of neurons in our hippocampus, is also another big one.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. another group, please?
I'm happy to share for group 3, and Daniel, next time we go jogging, you're coming with me. Okay, so we talked about as we spoke, what resonated with me with this was this quote from Nikola Tesla, where he says the secrets of the universe can be understood through energy, frequency, and vibration. And I think, Nandini, thank you so much, because you touched on all that. Because in our group, we talked about we need to manage energy and channel it the right way to get the right outcomes. And also the frequency of the brain, so that we get it to a collective, creative, interesting frequency to unlock things we never thought we could collectively. And also, I think Ronald brought up like how we vibrate from our heart and sending that right whatever impression
Yeah.
to
Correct.
everyone else, because not so much the brain, but people are reading your heart, the subtle things. Nice linkages to even higher levels of consciousness and even spirituality. So thank you very much. I think that was a really nice talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupa. Just adding one point, which I keep reiterating. So the sound, the sound of somebody's voice actually shapes our brain, and we don't stop to think about it. But the sound waves, they enter our ear, and through the that thing called cochlea, they basically go into the auditory cortex, and we have a very sophisticated mechanism in the brain to interpret sound, and it goes straight into the emotional brain. So if you are subject to unpleasant talk, or talk that your brain perceives as threatening, over a period of time, it will lead to emotional damage. We don't stop enough to think about these things. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rupa. Anybody? Yes, G. Thank you.
I can summarize for my group to the extent of my hippocampus, but the rest of you, please add in. We talk a little bit about that and how terrible some of us are with our hippocampus. So we have to do the 30-minute exercise. So I was in a room with 3 people from Penang. I don't know if that's intentional, but yes, it was nice to meet everyone. So we talked about the use of smell by using essential oils, and Krista was saying, I can increase energy by using lime. Is that right? Or lemon? I forgot. Okay, the essential oils. Krista, you want to say?
I think lemon. I'm not too sure about lime, but I know lemon definitely perks people up.
All right, thank you. Yes. And Hok Soon was talking about using music intentionally. Yeah, for hearing. And then I talked about empathy and how you spoke about activation of empathy to increase learning. And what I found is that workplaces are so stressed out nowadays that we need to be reminded that it's okay to say the wrong thing. We are here to learn all that stuff, to activate that for them. And lastly was someone from KL, Isabel, who works with children, and said how she wants to remove perception of threat or anxiety. And the second thing, Isabel, please jump in and add.
The other one was having small manageable challenges for children.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Very, very good point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go on. You want to elaborate a bit on that?
Okay, sure. So these small manageable challenges is to empower and to boost confidence in learners. Yeah, if a task given today is challenging for them, so tomorrow, instead of making it more difficult, scale it down so that they have the confidence. Oh, I can do it today. That means for them, they feel like, oh, I've got it. So next time when you introduce the activity, there won't be any fear. They'll be, okay, I can take this on.
Yes, yes, lovely.
Right.
That's a very
Thank
good
you.
point. It is also applicable to us, not just children. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I could go for my
Yes, ma'am.
room. I was in room 4, triple ST. Me, Sunny, Selva, and Thiru. All right. And what we did was we had an interesting reflection on how we have applied your acronym just now of NARE, N-A-R-E, in the programs that we have facilitated, and each of us was sharing how we applied the concept, in terms of repetition, the element of repetition, the element of novelty and association. So we were very, as I said, grateful because we learned from each other some new ideas through the short discussion that we had just now. But we felt that everything, that the 4 things that you mentioned, it really now we know, in terms of more specifically how the neuroscience is related to that. But and reflected that we have been practicing without knowing the names for it specifically, the neuroscience terminologies for it. Yeah, thanks.
Yes, and actually intentionality changes the outcome. So for example, if you'll see when you intentionally design with these in mind, you'll be able to do much more than you were doing before. So
yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think there's one more group that has to share.
Zoe Ng, would you like to share? I can add later.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, in my group, there are 2 Zoe, me, Zoe Ng, and Zoe Yang, and Captain Shan. So we have a very good, to me, it's a very good reflection, as in when Captain shared about is all aligning aligning our decisions. So when we actually face emotions with their own story, own perception, we need a thinking partner, a right thinking partner and right coach to help us to reflect. For me, it's important from our conversation, when we have someone to help us to reflect, that's where we get to create new experiences, have a different insights, different perception to make a right decisions. So we really have a good conversation about when we actually share on this part. Captain, please share if I miss out anything.
No, it's just about sharing, like, and the 12 essential factors. Coming back to what Thiru asked earlier, where do we go wrong? I'm talking about process facilitation. I'm not talking about learning facilitation. I'm talking about, process facilitation. So the factors are the same. But the thing is, if in the process of designing, I feel that if we consider these factors, especially when contracting with a stakeholder, if the stakeholder would like to, when we contract with them, the outcomes they desire for that facilitation, it can be conflict, it can be strategic thinking, strategic management, or it can be for challenges or whatever. But I think that if we include these 12 factors in the design process, some of the facilitation processes have got built in all these processes. But the thing is, I think what you shared, Nandini, is the why behind all these processes. So we appreciate more when you design putting in all these 12 factors. Have we considered all this? So then it will make the process facilitation more effective. And again, coming back to aligning, I think we came back to aligning the brains in the room, right? It's aligning these individuals who come with different perception, who come with, even sometimes people come into the session because the anxiety, because the boss just told them, go and attend this meeting, our department is required to attend, I cannot attend. And this person comes in, do not know what to expect. So the facilitator who designs and gets all these factors included can make a safe space. And especially, again, if you've got power in the room, so if we have designed the activities to handle all this, I think we'll be successful for the purpose of the client.
True. And just another, like my own experiences, sometimes if the group is very large, I'm not able to do that one-on-one with, a very large population because of that constraint. Then I actually go into the client group much earlier and sometimes recruit 5-6 people from their team to be like the co-facilitators, because then they start speaking that language with the participants, and that changes the mood in the room considerably. But again, one of the challenges that I have seen over my years of facilitation is to balance the cognitive with the emotional. How do you do that in a way that the outcome meets the stakeholders' requirement, as well as, there is some like memorability and learning for the participants. So, that is, I think it just comes with experience and practice. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this session. If you have any comments or anything that you wanted to know but it was not covered, or any response, or if you liked or did not like, please send send your responses, because every response is important to me, because it is an opportunity for me to learn. So please do that. And I'm here if you want to discuss or talk about something in particular. So I'm going to hang on for another 10 minutes in case somebody wants to, discuss something. But I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope you have some takeaways which are useful for you. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zainal.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nandini will be in town next year. When is that? January, February, right?
Yes, January.
January. So those who want to catch up with her, we can do that.
Okay. Thank you, Nandini, for this session. It was, do you all have any questions? You can put in the chat group, in the chat room, chat box.
Okay. Well, not many questions.
I have a question, Nandini.
Yes, Zoe.
Okay. Talking about 5 senses, when, if let's just say I really observe that I associate certain images, certain thoughts in a very unfavorable experience perception, how should I turn this around so that I to stop from there and not to continue to delve into a very to continue the negativity? How should I actually put a stop deliberately and have to make a change, something like that?
Okay, I'm going to give you one conventional answer and an unconventional answer. Okay, so so let's go with the conventional answer first. The conventional answer is that your awareness itself can change the outcome. So now let's say, a certain image, let's say, triggers you. Okay, so it can happen. So for example, I know that I have also some images that trigger me. And if it's there in the space, then I'm uncomfortable. But the awareness that this is triggering me itself helps me to overcome my emotional response. Okay, so this is the conventional answer. Now the thing is, you can say, oh, how can I work on my own mind, and how can it really happen? And it's really hard, especially if it's emotionally hardwired into your brain. It's really hard. Okay, so the unconventional answer is that I won't say that you do this, but you can actually go into very deep meditative state, and change for yourself the meaning of that image. Okay, and I can tell you from my own experience that it works. So, and it's not thankfully, things like self-hypnosis, like words like that, are no longer considered to be, as if there's something wrong happening or there's some hokey pokey with it. But it's just nothing but going into deeper states of meditation. And there are many, many YouTube videos which give you very safe meditation, visual meditation. You can go deeper into the state of meditation and change for yourself the meaning of that image. And you will see for yourself that when that image comes next time, it will not trigger you that much. So that's the unconventional answer. I hope that helps.
Thank you. I'm actually practicing meditation, give myself the breathing, a calmer space. Just that when back to reality, that is the different voices.
Yeah.
So it's really that's where the awareness comes back. That is what choices can I could take. If those not really helping me, I have to make those good voices to guide me along. Yeah.
Yes. And very often you have to replace that voice with, you have to replace that experience with a positive experience and put your attention on the positive experience, and then the negative experience just fades away. It doesn't become zero. It just becomes less important.
I guess we just need to do it more.
Yes.
To strengthen the muscle for the positive experience.
Yes.
Thank you, Nandini.